Culture probably for me is the kinds of like art and music and dance and food and all the different aspects of that and like how you grow up. And religion has like like parts of it too, but I think it's more of like the art that we see in like every day.
I feel like culture is something that a group of people share that they have in common.
Culture is just certain customs and ways of living of a certain group of people, while identifying that way.
My definition of culture would probably be like a melting pot sort of a group of people's like traditions, their beliefs, their morals, their languages, foods, even religion would probably be what culture is to me.
It's a system of values and beliefs that a group of people collectively, sort of live their life by.
I definitely think religion, race, location can all factor into culture, but I think culture can come from many different things. It could come from just fitness culture or vegan culture, just something that you share.
I think so. I think location, it started out, location was a big deal, especially if you lived in certain areas of the world. Like if you lived by a river, then water was very important to you. Or if you lived in a desert, then water was really important to you, but for a different reason. So those things definitely, yeah, that kind of stuff.
I definitely think race and location factor into making a culture, because usually if you're around more people that look like you, you're more comfortable with that. And a location too, if you're just people in the diaspora, people that are born in Africa and black people that are raised in America, they're the same type of people, but their culture is different, based on their location. They each have their own. So yeah, definitely.
So my grandmother, she raised us, and that was her full-time job. And then my grandfather worked at a factory, which I feel like is a really macho job, and put in long hours and did those types of things. So I feel like he was definitely the breadwinner and the one holding things down financially, and she was our nurturer. Which I don't know if I'm nurturing yet. We'll see. We'll find out.
Maybe not so much my family. The rules aren't too strict between men and women. But I could be wrong, because then again, I am a man. I guess you could answer that part. I don't think it's too defined in our family, necessarily. But, yeah. I think we're good on that.
I don't think we have really clear rules in our family. I think our parents raised me and my brother to realize that we're equals and that not one of us is different than the other.
I wouldn't say they're really specifically defined in my family. I think because I'll start from my mom's side. She, her father, my grandpa he grew up as a sharecropper. So that's basically right after slavery. That time period was sharecropping was another type of slavery. And so he didn't go to school, or neither did my grandma. And so they grew up, in 1930s, 40s, 50s America, so they had to work. So it's not really the wife stays home. When you're black, you both gotta work, So I think that passed down to us, and my mom's always telling us, you just work, you're male or female, you work. So it's not really anything defined.
Okay, so earlier I said I didn't particularly identify with the culture, but like I said earlier, I'm black and white. I feel like there's a lot of stereotypes about both sides, of course. But when people look at me, they don't that's a white girl walking down the street. So I would say one thing of being a black woman is that people just be acting like I'm aggressive or I'm too mad, for no reason, which I feel like any type of, sometimes it feels like people will want to try and, censor my emotions. I'm like, nah, y'all gonna get what you're gonna get. You're gonna have to accept it because, you know, when I'm reacting the same way as my, you know, white guy friend, like nobody cares when he's raises his voice or does things like that. So it's like, why I gotta be the mad black one, you know?
Do white people and Christians? I think white people that they're, I guess more ignorant in terms of just cultural knowledge, and that they, I guess they're not hard workers, and that they talk a certain way. And Christians, I think a lot of times people think they're a bit reserved and less receptive to other ideas about, you know, a lot of things, specifically other religions and sexual orientations and stuff like that. Yep.
Okay.
That's a good question. So I would definitely say the most, what was the misconception?
Misconception about people of your culture.
The biggest misconception about people that are like black people, I'm like, when I say black people right now, I'm specifically talking about black people in America, because that's where I am. But I would say definitely the most common misconception or conceptions is that we're lazy and that we're violent. I think that's just the main thing. Like that's like the two connections that people will make towards us, you know?
Throughout this interview, I'm starting to think I don't have a culture necessarily that I can identify with. But I remember the majority of my life I was around Muslims, and during 9/11, that was, you know, a huge turning point, I think. But I don't know, stereotypes, like nowadays, mainly, just you can see that people interact with me differently based on who I'm surrounded by, you know. If I'm with my brothers and we're riding in a car, or come to a function that's not necessarily black or white, like a school or a institution of any kind, or even Starbucks without my hat, I just feel like, I don't know, people are timid until you break the ice, you know, to interact. It's definitely a minority culture, whatever it may be.
So I wouldn't call it racism because racism has to do with structures of power, and since white people historically have held more power on day to day, I would say what I experienced was prejudice. I grew up in a all-black neighborhood, and people hated us because we were white, and like walking to and from school, like you can get like harassed by kids even younger than us, saying like get out of here, like we don't want you, and they use like curse words and stuff. And yeah, people just throw trash in our yard, steal our stuff. I guess everyone was stealing everything, so yeah, they wouldn't move if they were standing in the street, which was a lot. And we were driving by, they would just like stand in the way. We couldn't really like honk because then that would give them reason to be upset. Yeah, so I think on an individual level, I kind of know what it's like, but on like a institutional level, I haven't experienced that quite.
So this question or the idea of racism has actually been weighing heavy on me because, now don't get me wrong when I say this, I'm not going to say that racism doesn't exist, that discrimination doesn't exist, but at the same time, race is a construct, a social construct. And I feel like okay, so I'm gonna talk about slavery because nobody ever wants to talk about slavery. I'm gonna bring it there. In those days of like when people were introduced as social others, so if you're an African, you brought to this world and you're among either indigenous or European people, more specifically, you're gonna be looked at as that social other. And if those people are perceiving you, looking at you as an inferior because of your skin color, your condition, then because we learn through other people, can perceive like that inferiority as something that you self-identify with. And so I think like it's really, I just wanted to kind of map out that first before I really dive into this. Because for a long time, I feel like I would get discriminated against and I would internalize those things as having something to do with who I am. But I just want people to really like take that power back, I guess. Because another person's prejudice and discrimination really has nothing to do with, us. So, yes, at the end of the day, I feel like racism does exist, but I just want to be careful about that word because race is a construct that I think is very powerful. And I don't want other people like me, especially if like young black women who come up thinking or internalizing any of like the stuff that does happen to us. And I guess it's like as far as specific incidents, people just like shouting slurs and whatnot. When people are using the N-word or when people are clearly pulling you over because of the color of your skin and you have cops talking to you crazy, it's those instances that really like make you call into question like, why do you look at me different? But it happens. And so I'm gonna say yeah.
Have I ever experienced racism? Well, I feel like probably every day is a result of racism for me and millions of people. Direct racism, yeah, but not so much where I feel like it has, really caused me as much trauma as it has others. I have plenty of encounters with the police that leave me feeling the wrong way, plenty, and I've been lucky enough to make it scratch-free out of me, so I can't say. I think, if anything, looking the way I look has really been an advantage to me, even over white people sometimes. I feel like it's just interesting, it's something to think about more. But yeah, I feel like anybody with, who's not of the system has experienced racism, whether they even know it or not.
I've experienced racism in very micro ways, the very small kind of things. Actually, before this, I was waiting up for somebody to give me a package at my residence hall. And there was a woman there, and she's like, your skin is so pretty. And I was like, oh, thank you, it's really just makeup, but it's pretty. But I'm like, thank you, nonetheless. And she's like, I wish I was dark. And she went on and on about how dark skin was this and that, and I was just kind of like, please hurry up and get my package to me so I don't have to listen to this white lady go on and on about how, oh my gosh, she wishes she was of color. And it's like, that's so easy for you to say because you don't know what we have to deal with,
Honestly, I feel like we just need to start younger with teaching kids about like what racism is, because so many people are so like afraid to talk about it, and I feel like I didn't learn very much about it until I got older and until I was kind of forced to understand like what it was, because I came from like a more of a like white-centric community. I got lucky because I grew up in a town that was pretty like multicultural, so it wasn't as apparent as some other places. But I think it's more about education than anything else, because so many people are just ignorant, and they're not ignorant maliciously, they just don't know. It's the best way to, like, I was ignorant, and now like I know more and I can like better myself that way, and I think that's the best way to do it.
Thank you.
Sorry, my answers were long.
No, you're good.
I talk.
Everybody get educated, have really open conversations. I think that as much as when people are discriminating against others, we have to address that, and like those people have to be accountable for their actions. I think that if you do consider yourself more fair-minded, to practice your tolerance even more hard, because I think that we need more understanding and more compassion. And I know that's difficult, especially like in the face of people being hateful, but like if you just put fire on fire, nothing's gonna get better. It's a big fire. So I think that we just have to be more understanding and like have open dialogue. I think both parties have to want to make a change though, and a lot of times unfortunately it's individuals from both sides not showing up, like they don't want to put in that work. So I think like if people are really committed to easing tensions as far as like between race and race relations, you gotta do your breathing, come at it, be calm, and try and stay open-minded.
Many white people specifically are just so ready to say, don't make it about race, don't talk about race. We're just people, I don't see race. And it's so easy to say that you don't see race but everyone else around you does. And when they see me walking down the street, they don't see just a girl or just a person, they see me as a black person, because that is a part of my physical outlook and who I am. We have to talk about it in order for something to be done about it.
Do you think that race and culture go hand in hand?
I definitely think so. I think that, of course, we are very much a melting pot of a country. And so, of course, some mixing and interactions between them come together. However, culture definitely is based quite a bit on race, more than anything.
Thank you.
No problem.
What can be done about it? I think the first step to anything is just information and openness to learning about it. If nobody cares, then nothing's gonna happen. But we take a genuine interest in other cultures and approach everything from a viewpoint that this is somebody else's. Let me address it that way. Like when you put on somebody else's coat, you probably act a little different than when you're just wearing your coat. Like you wouldn't just throw your coat somebody else's coat on the ground. You might throw your coat on the ground. It just depends.
Thank you.
Good. 23, and my culture is to be determined.
And
I'm sorry, what's the question? I'll start over.
Okay. So name, age, year if you want, culture or ethnicity.
okay. Alright, so for culture, I'm just be like, I am part of, or I like, my culture is. Alright, so my name is Anissa. I'm 19 years old. I am a sophomore at Harris School of Art and Design, and my culture is Black culture.
Just pause right there. Hold on. Oh, I forgot to put on.
Should I say it again?
Yeah, okay. Let's just start one more